Hello everyone and welcome to the show. Today's video is going to be the start of a 9-part video series where I dive into each of the 9 launch titles that were available for the Atari VCS, which is what the Atari 2600 was known as when it was first introduced in 1977. They very briefly had a numbering scheme, and this was listed as number 1 and included in the box. You can be sure that if anyone got an Atari, they are familiar with the classic 2-player shooting fest that is Combat. And that is the topic for today's video.
Atari's new video game is more fun to play.
Atari's new Indy 500 is more fun because it's so action-packed. Atari's new Combat is more fun because it's no calendar.
Atari's new FC Battle is more fun because it's just like the real thing. Only there. From Ultra Pong to our new programmable video computer system, Atari's got more original games, and that's more fun for you.
Upon the Atari 2600 console's release in 1977, it launched with 9 starter titles covering everything from education to shooter games. Combat was number 1 and included with the console until 1982. After that, it was changed to Pac-Man. Is it a coincidence the North American game crash happened the next year? Check out the outstanding artwork on the box. This demonstrates how clever Atari was. You have some great artwork here showing what the game was supposed to represent. Because when you actually start up the game, well, you have blocks. At least now, you kind of have an idea what these blocks embody. One thing I always loved about the box artwork is how they extended elements beyond the border. Sears Telegames also had Combat, but they renamed it Tank Plus, and it was not the pack-in game with a console. Combat was programmed by Joe DeCour, Steve Mayer, and Larry Wagner. It was based on 2 earlier black-and-white coin-operated arcade games produced by Atari: Tank, published under the Key Games name in 1974, and Jet Fighter in 1975. Like those arcade games, Combat is a 2-player game only, which I must admit was a bit of a disappointment for me as I was the only one in the family who played video games. While it's initially interesting to load up the game and try all the different game variations, shooting a static tank is not all that engaging. It's just 2K, so there's definitely not enough room for enemy AI. In 1977, AI routines were not all that common in games. It was said that the Atari 2600 was designed with 2 games in mind: Pong and Tank. Video Olympics was the showcase for the first, and Combat for the latter. You can see that with the built-in software design components. Let me very briefly go over these to illustrate what I'm talking about. The 6 main elements consist of a playfield of 40 by 192 pixels, 2 8-bit wide player sprites, 2 player missiles, and a ball. The 2 player sprites can be horizontally doubled or tripled. It's an easy built-in way to get more than just 2 player sprites on your screen, as long as it makes sense for them to be horizontally aligned. Sprites can also be resized to double or quad. This is used to good effect in the different game modes. Combat has 27 variations which feature a variety of different combat scenarios, including tanks, biplanes, and jet fighters. In the tank game of Combat, players control tanks and move around a playfield, shooting the other player until time runs out. The player with the higher score wins. Depending on the level, ammunition includes straight missiles, guided missiles, which turn as your player turns, and tank pong. Another variation is tank pong, in which shots bounce off the walls, with variations upon whether a hit can be direct or required to bounce off a wall first. There are also invisible tanks, in which the players are revealed only while firing or running into a wall. Along with the playstyles, there are different playfields, including an empty field, a simple maze, and a complex maze. Another set of level choices in combat is biplanes. This is played with 3 types of ammunition: straight missiles, guided missiles, and machine guns. Players have the option of fighting one-on-one, each flying a pair of biplanes that fire in sync, or one player controlling 3 sync biplanes against 1 large bomber. The bomber shoots an oversized projectile that otherwise behaves like a straight missile. I think this is the one with the most uneven scenario, with the 3 biplanes having the advantage with 3 shots versus the one with the bomber. The playfield can either be an empty sky or with clouds to fly into. The jets option is similar to biplanes, but only uses straight and guided missiles. It uses the same map and squadron options as the biplanes mode, with jets flying singly, in pairs, or in trios. This is the game version matrix for combat. It was very common for the original manuals to show the game variations like this, to get the associated number to dial in with the select switch. However, modern homebrews use graphical menus to more easily select your desired variation. User Omega Matrix has taken a dozen or so of the original games that had lots of variations and created graphical menus for them. They can be found free on the Atari Age website.
Being a popular game, you can imagine there have been all sorts of combat hacks throughout the years. Here are a few of the highlights. The first, in relation to my prior statement about combat only being a 2-player game. Zach Matley has taken a stab at adding tank AI to make a 1-player version of the game. This game only has one screen with this maze. I'm playing the red tank. The tank is pretty easy once you understand that all it does is come straight at you. You can just wait behind a barrier until it arrives. It occasionally gets caught in weird positions. But when all is said and done, I really wanted this back in the day. Ever wanted to rock out while playing some combat? Well, you can with Combat Rock. Paul Slocum has replaced the sound with Rock the Casbah. You can also bring some holiday cheer into your biplane fights by playing with clouds shaped as either a Christmas tree, a snowman, or the menorah. This was also done by Zach Matley. Well, that's it for today's video. Let me know in the comments below which is your favorite game in combat. Do you prefer rumbling around in a tank or flying the high skies? If you enjoyed the video, please hit the subscribe and like buttons, and hit that bell icon if you want to be notified of upcoming videos, like the ones for this 9-part launch title series. Take care, guys.